So for those of you who don't know, it's actually Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I'm hoping to bring you as much Asianness as I can, because usually I talk about just general issues, and sure, sometimes Asianness has to do with it, but they're never really about Asian heritage per se. I'm just going to talk about the complications that come with my specific identity. My dad is from Hong Kong and my mom is from Taiwan. I think for a while I always wondered what to necessarily call myself, because I'm not technically Chinese because my parents are not born in the mainland. Politically, Hong Kong and Taiwan, they're part of China. But yeah, Taiwan and Hong Kong, they have a tendency of differentiating themselves more from China just because of their rather complicated history and current political situations in relationship with each other. So when I grew up, I would tell people that I am Chinese. And it was only until later that my mom started explaining to me we were more specifically Taiwanese and Hong Kong. I remember a few times I tried telling people that I was from Taiwan and Hong Kong. But since most kids, they didn't know where those places were, I usually just try to correct myself to say that I'm Chinese because that was something that they understood better. That's an interesting thing about being an AAPI person in America, because you face this dilemma of potential self-erasure. For example, I have a friend whose name is Koilileni, and she's African. And people would always try to shorten her name, and she would always tell them to not shorten her name, because it's a form of erasure. It's a form of making yourself more easy or palatable to other people. When it comes to African or Asian or Latino names, there is a need to Americanize it. I think there's always this concern about coming off too strong if you try to correct people on how to pronounce your name, or if people try to shorten your name. And it's so interesting that some people are willing to be so flexible with something that's essential as themselves as their name. So similar to how sometimes people accept the mispronunciation of their names or just different, more pronounceable versions of their name, I often told people that I was just Chinese. And nowadays I've kind of like compromised a little bit better. So when someone asks me, are you Chinese? I tell them, yes, I am Taiwanese and Cantonese. So that way I'm not coming off too strong, but also I'm giving them more information about my background, more specific information. I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. Maybe it's still a form of self-erasure. It really depends on how much the individual wants to differentiate themselves from being Chinese. I think because I didn't grow up in Taiwan or Hong Kong, maybe I'm more willing to take on that role of being Chinese, maybe. I don't know, because when, they have a complicated history with each other, but I've never had to experience that firsthand. I will say that I'm not Chinese just because it's already so hard to make people understand where I come from and to feel like I belong here. It's a complicated thing that I don't have a solid answer to, and I don't think anybody has a solid answer to. It's hard because I've had experiences where I remember I was calling up a blood donor center for Red Cross, and they asked me, have you traveled anywhere in the last few months? And I told them, yes, I did. I actually traveled to Taiwan. And literally someone was like, oh, do you mean Thailand? I'm like, no, I mean Taiwan. And then they were like, oh, how do you spell that? In this country, it can be kind of difficult to be more specific about my ethnicity because I shouldn't have to have the emotional energy to always explain where I come from. And it hurts a lot to know and have that feeling your background is invisible or doesn't actually exist in other people's heads. That's how invisible my specific identity can feel sometimes. I'm still very proud of it, and I think more people are more understanding about what Taiwan and what Hong Kong is. A lot of people, they still look at Asian people as all Chinese people. People still have this very pan-Asian way of looking at my identity. Maybe saying that I'm Taiwanese and Cantonese more often might help get rid of that stereotype. I don't know. These are just musings that I have. I'm not trying to say that one way is better than the other. I'm just saying my experience and how I'm coping with it. Because being a person of color in this country is exhausting. That's all I have for today. Nothing inflammatory, nothing social justice-y. the last video, it's doing really, really well for a channel as small as mine. Which makes me really happy. We'll definitely be making more videos like that in the future. Reception has been pretty well. I mean, like, when a video does better than, 1,000 views, there's always going to be people that don't like it, but it comes with the territory, unfortunately. Also, I got so many compliments on this Caucasians team t-shirt. It's to make fun of the Cleveland Indians. If you guys want to buy a shirt from them, you should definitely check them out and show them some love. I'm not being sponsored by them, by the way. I get no money from this. I'm not a big enough channel to be offered sponsorships yet. And if you would like to learn more about Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, definitely do some Googles and search the hashtag on Twitter. Because I think it's important to consume media that is not made for you sometimes. And I hope to come at you with more Asian content throughout this month. Thank you so much for watching, and I really, really appreciate you. Okay, bye!